Many thanks for staying with us on the conversation. And on this segment, we discuss Lagos. Um, we are talking about single use plastics and protection of the environment. According to statistics, Nigeria produces about 2.5 million tons of plastic waste every year, and Lagos alone is responsible for about 15%. It's also alarming to note that more than 150,000 tons of plastic waste enters the Atlantic Ocean from Nigeria's coastal cities each year. Meanwhile, Lagos' new ban is coming at a time when plastic recycling is still under 12%. So scaling up innovation and community participation is crucial. Joining us to have this conversation this morning is a seasoned expert in the recycling space, Mr. Adedayo Fadunsi, business manager of Alon Green Recycling. You're welcome.
Thank you, madam. I'm glad to be here to discuss this topical issue.
Okay,
with you this morning. Single-use plastics.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And how it treats our environment.
Yes. So let's look at, let's try to identify what the problem is right now. I'd like us to understand, or, I want you to shed light for our viewers to understand what common single-use plastics we make use of daily or we encounter daily. What are these plastics?
Thank you very much. Single-use plastics, let's set the record straight. These are plastics that we use at a one-time purpose and we dispose of them.
Okay.
A very common example of the plastic family is the PET, which is the polyethylene terephthalate. It is the commonest and most abundant of the thermoplastic polymer resin of the polyester family. You see, don't bother about all of those things. Single-use plastics, think of them as your water sachet.
Okay.
Think of them as your table water bottle.
Okay.
Think of them as the straws you use.
Okay.
Think of them as the party packs. Think of them as the disposable spoons we use. They are meant for one-time use and discarded. These are what single-use plastics is all about.
Okay. So what dangers do this single-use plastic, pose to our health?
Thank you. You see, the dangers single-use plastics pose to us, they are multidimensional.
Okay.
Let me start with the marine life. When these plastics find their way into the water bodies,
okay,
they distort the structure of the marine ecosystem.
Okay.
They pose dangers to the fishes in the sea and the oceans. For example, you see that table water, the fish in the sea, in the oceans, they don't usually identify them as plastics. They think it's food. They mistake them as food. And as they are gulping water, they gulp these plastics too. Most times, it chokes them in the throat. Unlike you and I that can easily cough those things out, anything that chokes us in the throat. These fish, they find it difficult to do that. At the end of the day, they choke to death. You see fish, big fish on the coastline. You'll be wondering what killed this fish. These are some of the reasons. Secondly, the ones that are lucky enough to be able to ingest these plastics, it goes into their system because of the density of the plastic. They are not able to disintegrate them. What happens to the plastics is that it forms into microplastics and enters into the system of fish. You and I eat those fish, and those microplastics are further transferred to us. They distort our hormones. These microplastics, they they alter our balance. They are also being fingered to be carcinogenic. They cause cancer. So these are some of the problems of single-use plastics.
Okay.
We also have the impact on the environment. For example, that water sachet that you gulped in one minute and you threw away indiscriminately, it's going somewhere. It doesn't just disappear. It goes into the landfills. It goes into the drainages. It blocks the drainages. So when one simple rainfall comes to Lagos, the whole streets are flooded. It tampers with the integrity of our roads when the roads are flooded. The whole place is messy. Examples are Surulere, Oron-Shoki, Lekki, and all of that. So these are some of the problems we are grappling with single-use plastics.
Okay, so how does recycling now tackle the problem of the single-use plastics?
Thank you. Recycling can only do so much. We are in the recycling space. Alon Green Recycling goes about every day collecting some of these plastics. But let me shock you. Out of 10 bottles of table water that find their way into the environment, recycling is only able to recover one out of those 10 plastics.
Why?
That forms about 10% of the whole plastics that we produce, both worldwide, both in Nigeria, both in Lagos. We can only do so much. And do you know what goes into trying to recall that one bottle out of 10? We fuel our vehicles. We pay our staff to go and recover these things. And most of the vehicles we use in this space, they are not new vehicles. Some of them are worn out. And so they cause hazard even to the environment. How? You will ask me. Most of these vehicles, we use diesel to run them. We use petrol to run them. And the engines, because it lacks efficiency, now it undergoes incomplete combustion. When incomplete combustion happens, the exhaust of the vehicle releases another gas into the atmosphere called carbon monoxide.
Causing air pollution.
So we are trying to, causing air pollution. So we are trying to solve one problem and also creating another one without knowing it. Do you know that the human body, it has the part of the blood is called hemoglobin. That is the part of the blood that makes it red. You know, hemoglobin binds with the oxygen that you breathe in to form oxyhemoglobin. So that's the normal process. So the oxygen is taken around the cells of the body to make them function in the normal metabolism. But you see, this carbon monoxide that is produced by these vehicles that go about picking these plastics, this carbon binds with the oxyhemoglobin to form carboxyhemoglobin at a 200 times rate, binding rate, more than even oxygen. You can see this is a problem. They don't just go into the atmosphere. They don't just disappear. You and I inhale them. And when this happens, it causes tissue hypoxia, you know, the small space that the oxygen is supposed to have in the hemoglobin system. Now, it has bound with carbon. And now it's suffocating. That's when you begin to lack oxygen in your body, and a lot of health issues emanate. So these are some of the problems.
So from all you have said right now, can Lagos, you know, truly, truly move towards a zero waste or circular economy?
I am hopeful.
Okay.
But you see, how do we attain this? Are we going to place a ban on all the plastics? It is not possible because we do not have an immediate alternative to these plastics, the variety of them. What we can do is what you are doing, using your platform
Advocacy
to educate the public,
okay.
to sensitize the public. We cannot do this. We'll keep doing this until one day somebody somewhere will get the gist.
Okay.
The pure water sachet that you use, can you dispose them appropriately? And even it's not even about the ban. There are 3 R's we need to follow. You need to reduce your use of single-use plastics.
Okay.
It's convenient, we know. It's easy to carry around, we know. But you need to reduce. Carry your refillable bottled water out. Come back, wash it, and refill it again. This is what we need in our society. Number 2R is that you need to reuse them. You reduce the use of single-use plastics, you reuse them, and you recycle them. We are in the space of recycling, but we can only do so much. We need the society to understand the impact of single-use plastics on our environment. And I ask you a question. You see, you live in your house. Imagine you blocking the drain in your kitchen, blocking the drains in your toilet, blocking the drains in your bathroom. And at the same time, you open all the taps in the house. Where did this water go? They create flood. You flood the whole house. This is the microcosm of what happens on a larger scale in our environment. When you throw that water sachet away, when you throw that bottled water away, this is what you're causing. You may think it may not affect you, but you see the flood that comes as a result of that, it will affect you. It will affect you. Sometimes when we mention data that we produce 400 million tons of plastics globally, somebody says, oh, how does that even concern you? How does it affect the price of garri in the market?
They're just numbers.
I tell you, they're just numbers. I tell you, what you think are just numbers, it affects the price of garri in the market. Let me bring it home. You have mentioned the data earlier in your intro.
Yeah.
That we produce 2.5 million tons of plastic waste in Nigeria alone. Nigeria is the 9th producer of plastic waste globally. Imagine. That's not a good rating.
I'm even also worried about how it's going to affect businesses who are into just producing their product in plastic bottles.
Okay, so now before we go into businesses, let's talk about how it even affects individuals like you and me.
Yes.
You see, these plastics, they plug our drainages. They cause flooding, just like I said earlier. You see, this flooding, it affects agricultural lands. You see, these plastics, they become microplastics in the soil. It affects the infiltration of water into the soil. And whatever affects the infiltration of water into the soil also affects the absorption of nutrients by the plants. You can see what you were expecting a bumper harvest. Now, at the end of the day, you produced a lean harvest. When there's shortage of these harvest materials, there are higher prices. Because when there's shortage of goods and services the prices go up. Yes. And that's where it affects you and me. What you're supposed to buy at 50 naira, now you are paying 250 naira. Money is just going into the society. Money is just going into the environment. without bringing tangible value back. This is where hyperinflation comes in. When there is inflation, money has no value because of that singular harmless act of yours, throwing that water sachet in the streets, that bottled water, using it once and throwing it away. So these are some of the reverberating effects of indiscriminate disposal of waste. Now, you talked about businesses.
Businesses, yes.
Now, there are very recently, Lagos banned single-use plastics. It asked supermarkets to be charging a certain sum for these single-use plastics. It can only go so far if the sensitization do not go widespread, like you are doing.
But Lagos State has Lagos State has given an 18-month, period to sensitize residents, ahead of the ban in July 1.
You see, if we do not carry residents along to buy into this idea, we'll just keep coming up with policies that will not enforce. Even if we enforce them, we punish them, they still go back to it. You see, this thing starts, it's a paradigm shift. If you do not understand the impact, how it affects you on a personal level, you will not do anything about it until you see that at a micro level. If you block all the drainages in your home, it affects you. That's how it is on a larger scale. We need to sensitize people and let them know.
You've been talking about sensitization, and people need to know. People need to be aware of the dangers this single-use plastics cause. I'd like you to advise right now that what simple lifestyle changes can residents now begin to adopt ahead of this ban of single-use plastics and all the dangers it poses to the environment and, of course, the health of human beings.
And we start segregating our waste from the source. Can you start segregating your recyclable materials from home? Can you start segregating your biodegradable materials and your non-degradable materials? And the reason they are non-degradable is because they are made from polymers that the molecules are so tightly bound together. I tell you, the density of the PET is 1.38 gram per centimeter cube. What this means is that per 1 gram, 1.38 gram of the plastic, it occupies 1 gram of space, cubic centimeter of space. Now, scientists have argued that there is no direct link between the specific density of the plastic and decomposition. But do you know that the more tightly packed together the molecules of an object is, the more it becomes difficult for it to decompose. So the more tightly packed together, these things are synthetic materials. They are not biodegradable. They are not organic materials like the banana peel, like the wood, like the carton, and all of that. So let's begin to see it as an enemy of the society. That's one water sachet that you drank in 1 minute can be here for over 400 to 500 years. Imagine the impact of that. And we keep producing them every day. And we start segregating our waste. And we start reducing the use of single-use plastics. Can we start reusing them instead of buying more? Can we start recycling them? Understand the importance of recycling. Recycling space, we are also faced with challenges of recovering these materials because they become so costly, because there are now middlemen
Okay.
who are passionate on the plastics, which we also want. But then think recycling, think a better and cleaner environment.
Okay, let's talk about this circular economy. How viable is it in Lagos right now?
Now, there have been success stories.
Okay.
For example, the European Union has reduced by 70% the use of single-use plastics.
Okay.
You say, oh, well, that's Europe. Let's bring it down to Africa. Since 2008, Rwanda, the country in the Eastern Africa, banned the use of single-use plastics.
Okay.
And they are better for it today.
Okay.
The roads are cleaner. The environment is, the people are healthier. Though it comes with downsides. People will lose their jobs. We have created green jobs, but people will lose their jobs. And some companies who are not prepared will grapple to stay afloat.
Okay.
In Lagos, it is possible. Impossibility only lies in the pages of the dictionary. We only need to have a paradigm shift. We need to encourage ourselves. We need to set awareness. We need to keep doing campaigns, letting the people know how it affects them on a personal level. It is possible. Circular economy is possible even right from Lagos State.
Okay, I'd like you to talk about, just before we go, I'd like you to talk about that strategic partnership you have with, I can't mention the name of that company, where you have parents having to pay for school fees with PET bottles. How did you come up with such a strategic partnership?
You see, this is the passion we have to reduce the use of single-use plastics and to rid the environment of this menace because it's become a pandemic.
Okay.
So we have this partnership with this school, and we are going into more schools where the students, we sensitize them. They understand the meaning, the impact of single-use plastics in the environment. They go about, recall these plastics, and sell them to us. And we pay them. That way, instrumentally, in installments, they begin to use it to pay for their school fees. And there have been many testimonies to this effect. We are doing more. Even corporate organizations are partnering with us to encourage this. We go to corporate organizations at our own cost, pick these plastics and pay them, and pay the school in return. So these are the ways where we can encourage people to be responsible for their use of single-use plastics.
Okay, thank you very much. Adedayo Fadun Singh, he's been talking about single-use plastics and protection of the environment. Thank you for joining us on the show.
You're welcome.
We'll go on a short break. When we come back, the conversation continues.